take it first. Should I move over?
So Baba says, God dwells within you as you, right? It's a nice thing to say, but if you live with it, then you realize that in each moment, God is with you. And when you are aware of the presence of God in each moment of your life, a certain reverence develops, not only for yourself, but for others. So, you see, because if God dwells within you as you, that applies to everyone. Baba wasn't big about saying, God dwells within you as you, except for your case. And yours maybe a little bit. It's 100% for everybody. So you see, we tend to look at life and events through our minds. And if our minds are judging ourselves or others harshly, then the reverence is gone. The respect is gone. That sense of the presence of God is absent. But if you were to take this simple teaching to heart, that God dwells within you as you, just taking that to heart changes your perspective on everything. You see? It's really very simple. And all it requires is the force of your intention to keep it and not to forget, to remember. God dwells within you as you. It's so simple and so easy to forget as you go through your daily life and you meet some schmuck and you just think, what an asshole. And you're like, the last thing you even want to consider is that God dwells within that person. And then you realize how you're being, and you realize you're being a schmuck too, to yourself. And all of a sudden, you're not seeing the godliness in yourself either. So, if you were to take this simple phrase as seriously as you take your own thoughts and critical judgments, things would look different. Everything would look different. God didn't make everyone to be nice to you all the time. That's not the way it works. But if you can see someone in this way, that there is divinity within everyone, it's just expressing in a different way. Maybe not in a way that you would prefer, but that's what's happening. So like you see, Baba could be any way he wanted to be. And he was surrounded by devoted disciples who just accepted how he was as part of that grace, all of it. So like, he never yelled at me, but he was known to yell at certain people at certain times. One person who gave an experience talk about it said, it was like being hit by a silk sledgehammer, and described how much it taught her. Because, here was love coming in the form of anger, which they had never experienced it like that. But because the devotion was such, it was experienced that way. And if your devotion to this idea, to this concept that there is divinity within you and within everyone equally, and with everything equally, then a certain reverence develops. And you have this reverence for everything. Everything. Even things you personally dislike, you have a certain reverence for. And then what happens is the power of those dislikes, it loses its power, really. It becomes just a thing that maybe you don't prefer, but has no power over you because love is love. Mm-hmm. Everything's love, isn't it? Everything is love. Sadness is love. Joy is love. Anger is love. Fear is love. All of it is love. Love is the only thing on earth that can welcome and embrace everything. Find that love. It's inside of you. It's inside of you. I guarantee you, if your heart stopped beating this moment, you would have nothing but acceptance for everything around you, for all of it. As you drifted away. So, take that trip in advance. Love everything as it is. Really, that's all that's here. All that's here. God is simply loving everything. And by loving everything, I don't mean the opposite of hate. I mean just fully embracing and accepting what is. Because everything is. It's simple. What's hard is picking and choosing what you're going to love. And then you have to take the roller coaster ride of feeling good and feeling bad. And then you say, well, when I feel good, that's love. When I feel bad, that's the absence of love. How can love ever be absent? It's a misunderstanding. You misidentified yourself with the judgments in your mind. That's all. The judgments in your mind have nothing to do with what is true or what is real. All they are is a mechanism that was devised to keep the body safe. The mind tells you when something is bad for your body and does whatever it can to keep you away from it. You see? And then you get humans which minds are like way, way more than necessary. And so they get very selective and they start interpreting all kinds of things as not good. You know, you could have something bad happen to you from someone who had a mustache, and the mind goes, mustaches. Watch out for mustaches. You see, Dan's trouble. He's sleeping right through it. Maybe not.
Oh.
So really, that's your homework. Everyone just go home and reflect upon the fact that God dwells within you as you and everyone else, and wonder why it is that you would go through your life thinking all these other thoughts that are contrary to this. Maybe give up those thoughts and fall into reverence for your own self and for everyone else. That can be your total spiritual path. It's reverence for everything. Because God is everywhere. You see? And when you start feeling a lack of reverence in favor of some other feelings, maybe make the adjustment and realize that God is there too. God is in all of it. You know, I'm sure the dinosaurs all lost faith when the asteroid hit. You see? But, you know, they wouldn't have existed without God to begin with. God was just saying next. And then the humans came. You know? We wouldn't have made it that far if dinosaurs were still walking around.
They had to become lizards.
They had to become smaller, yes. More manageable. I always said that with, you know, I know my cat is all nice and loving and everything, but I also know that if he were bigger than I was, I'd be dead. He'd get into a mood and decide I would be fun to play with. Shadow, our little cat. When we lived in Hawaii, you know, she was outdoor, indoor, and she would go catch a bird, and you know, the bird would just die. They have heart attacks when cats play with them. And Shadow wouldn't understand. She'd just take the bird and fling it up in the air and wonder why it wouldn't fly away. Why won't it fly? It was more fun when it flew.
More fun to play with.
Yeah. Huh?
That's true.
Didn't try and eat it?
Oh, they ate them, yeah.
Oh. Once playtime was over.
Yeah, yeah. And they... Protein.
So it's hard to be alive right now in justice, and that takes judgment. And
Yes.
I'm just watching what's going around politically or socially, and I sense a lot of injustice, and sometimes it makes me want to do something, like vote. Or just,
Well,
so without distracting this idea, I still feel that there's some benefit, but probably not, to judgment.
no, you know, you can do what it is your nature to do. It doesn't have to be like out of strong judgment. It could just be out of a personal value system, what you feel is the right thing
So
to do.
values are different than judgment.
Well, they can be.
They can be. All right.
They-
So that's.
They're often intertwined.
Mhm.
So like, there's this organization, it's HAIS, H-A-I-S, I think it is. It was originally set up for the Jewish immigrants that came to America to help them get settled. Well, there aren't any more coming, but the organization continues to support all immigrants that come to America who need help, who need support. And I thought, well, so I donate my money to them. You know, but not out of judgment, just I think that's a great thing to do. And it's great that they're doing it, especially in this day and age, where it's working the other way. So as a counterbalance, I do that. Another counterbalance. Trump always complained about the Washington Post. He said they were against him. So I always read Google News, and I kept reading the Washington Post articles, and I said, damn it, they're not. They really are against him. This is great. So now I subscribe to them. You see? So it's like, I do what I can, little things, to help counterbalance what's going on, but there's no judgment involved except I have a natural affinity for certain things, certain actions, and not so much for others. Okay, so if someone came in here and espoused hatred toward immigrants, that would not be my inclination. But I also wouldn't judge them. And a lot of people feel that way. But I would say everyone's the same. You see? Because that's how I look at things. That's how I actually see things all the time. So you see, just out of seeing things like that all the time, certain actions could happen easily that you may have once done out of a judgment, but you still would do, even without it, and then you don't carry the burden. The thing about it is, when you judge someone else, okay, as being bad, and blah, 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 whatever it is, that holds that energy toward in you. It becomes your burden now. That someone else is doing something that you hate. Now it's your hatred against their hatred. You don't like how they hate, but you like how you hate, you see? And you see, then it's just a cyclical thing. So you don't have to be like that. I mean, like, I just see God in everyone, and when someone acts in this world against that, that's not how I see it. I see a way to balance it out fine. You notice those people who really hate other people, they don't come to these talks because they're not going to get fed. This is not the right place for them. Trump rally would be. They would do well there. You see? So there's plenty of spaces for everybody. Look, there's people who their mechanism for getting through life is to hate others because the alternative is to hate themselves, you see. So it's like, it's just a mechanism that someone was particularly equipped to make that transition rather than the transition to accepting everything. You see, that's all. And this is the way of it. This is the way of it. We have lived in a very interesting, sweet, very sheltered society for the last some years, Now, there were always people to hate, okay? When the white people first came, they could hate the Indians and create a genocide even there. And then they brought in slaves. They could hate them, you see? And then they could even have a war over it. And then they could still hate them. You see? When the Irish came into New York, everyone could hate them. It's been going on, you see. This is human nature. Okay? And it's just now, it's come out at a time where we thought it was done. But it's not done. It's a cycle. And it's just being encouraged from the highest levels at the moment. Maybe for a while. You see? We can just watch it. I'm glad I'm older. And I won't have to watch it much longer. I got to live through these nice times. Woodstock was 50 years ago. Like now, 50 years ago. And it was peace and love. Right, there was peace and love in the face of the Vietnam War. In the face of Robert F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King assassination. And you see, so there's this, it was still going on. There was still all this stuff going on. But we cloak it in different ways at different times. And if you just sit with it all and watch it, you can see. You can see the same thing goes on all over the world. I remember I was, for a very short time, I was an ice cream man in Baltimore, but they moved me out. It was an experiment to an army base where the Vietnamese refugees were. And I was there, and the Vietnamese, they'd just come in from Vietnam, right? And they were saying, don't you see those other people? And there were Cambodians there. I couldn't tell the difference. They said, you can't tell? Oh my God, these are bad people. All the Cambodians, they had their prejudice. They didn't like them. They were isolated into an area there, and they didn't mix at all. And you see these prejudices, they're all over the world. And like you look at it, you go, what difference? I don't see any difference. They did. You see, so this stuff goes on all over the world in all different forms, some mild, some extreme. It's just the nature of it, you see. So basically what's happened is something is being brought out and encouraged that has not been encouraged for a long time. And so it's coming to the surface. It was always there. Remember, George Wallace ran for president? He would have done pretty good had he not been shot. He was developing a lot of steam in his candidacy. It's been there.
So Ananta,
Yes.
prejudice comes from mental constructs, conditioning?
Well, yes, of course.
Okay.
It also comes, it's a convenient way to direct your anger. Okay? So, Trump was very good at channeling people's anger at the government, you see? I'm gonna drain the swamp. I'm gonna get rid of all these da-da-da-da-da. He got a lot, and a lot of people are not doing that well. And I mean, really, who's doing that well? No one's doing as well as it seems like they were doing in my parents' age, when there were unions and the pay was really good and one member of the household could work full-time and support the family and everything they needed. And then you see things changed and everything got downgraded for most people. You see, and people are pissed off. So free trade really didn't work out, you see. And you had everyone, all the Republicans, all the Democrats, in favor of free trade. And Trump was saying, no, we got to rework all these deals and get out of some of them, you see. He hit a nerve, but he had a point in some ways. Maybe things can never go back, but people are pissed. we channeled that anger. And now he's channeling all kinds of angers that people have. They've always had them. Look, if you're going to be really pissed off, if you're going to be pissed off at yourself, it's really draining, it's really psychologically torture, it creates depression, it's all kinds of stuff. But if you can channel that anger towards someone else, it feels empowering, you see? So it's just a way of human nature, because it's not the majority of people that are inclined to look at themselves. Because really, if you look at yourself seriously, it invalidates the vast majority of what you think, say, and do. Most people aren't up for that. Okay? They'd rather justify what they think, say, and do. So prejudice is a way to do that. It's not my fault, it's his fault. In fact, if these people weren't here, I'd be in great shape. I'd have the job my parents had. You see? Like that. So it's understandable. It's understandable, and if you can take your judgments out of it, you can see it clearly for what it is. And most people don't feel it's really their job to know themselves. That's too hard. Because it is. It's hard on many levels. But it's like, I figured myself, if I didn't know myself, what good did it make if I knew anything else? What point is there to knowing anything if you don't know yourself? That was my place. But I was a minority. Most people in college were learning this and that, and now they're successful and have a lot of money. Whereas your guru is a complete failure. In that regard. So,
You must not be enlightened then.
yeah, that's it. Well, I don't have the plaque. I wanted to put one up. Have it up here, maybe in front of Baba's picture, with the certificate and everything. You would think.
You get double D to make you one.
Oh, I think it's triple D though. Tell him I need one, really. He'd be doing his guru a great service. Someone asked me if I was enlightened, and I just couldn't prove it.
Ananta, so if we are no different than you, as you say, we just don't know it yet. And yet, you say also, enlightenment is really a matter of grace. So there's no way of thinking your way to this state. No. There's no way
No,
of...
but what you can do is prepare the path.
Prepare the path.
Yeah, so in other words, I think these free samples, they happen all the time. Mm-hmm. And certainly if you're on a spiritual path and you're doing certain practices here and there, it's very likely to happen. The thing about the free sample that makes it just a sample is that the mind reaches in and says, that's it. And as soon as that happens, your free sample is over, you see. If the mind is prepared in such a way that it attempting to reach in to grab that thing for itself will fail. No one will pay any attention to it. It won't have the power. The mind will not have the power to distract you from that which is everything. So that's the thing that practices are useful for, just preparing it. So like the chance of enlightenment is favored by a well-prepared mind. You see?
The chance of
The chance of that happening is it is more likely to happen in a well-prepared mind. It can't happen otherwise. In my case, it was a well-prepared mind, and I've been through so much, you see, and there was already a diminishing. The diminishing of the mind was already in progress, you see. So things were changing on the phenomenal level already. Like things that used to bother me didn't bother me as much. Things that I used to put all my energy in, I didn't care anymore. You know? So things were backing off. And the me, that sense of me, was being diminished every day. And then I suppose one of those experiences, it happened. And the me did come out. And, but no one gave it any sustained energy. So it was like it was weaving in and out, like kind of in a midland state. Some of it was familiar the old way, some of it wasn't, but ultimately there wasn't enough personal involvement for the experience of that awesome presence of now to fade. It just wouldn't do it. So ultimately it became clear that this sense of presence, no word for it, and sense of peace was in charge. That was what was. And the old way just was not taking hold again, and it faded more and more and more. You see, so that's and yeah. Ultimately, you look. God dwells within you as you. You can just picture what that is. You can picture the presence of God, whatever your concept is of that, within you. That sense of being, that sense of oneness within you. It's like just that. If you can just sit with that for a while. And then, can you imagine ever going back to your personal way of looking at everything? It's like, it'd be ridiculous. Right. And if you mistakenly did once, it would be laughable. You see? So it's like, that's the thing. It's really simple. It's so simple to just sit down and feel that presence of consciousness, peace, oneness, God, whatever word you want for it, because none of them are right. But just that sense of presence with you. Why would you ever go back to this personal way of looking at everything? You see? So the reason you go back is because your identification is still very strong with the mind. You see? So, just switch sides. Make that sense of presence. Recognize that that is truly who you are. You see? That's all. Yeah, it's really simple. When the enlightenment happens, you will laugh at how simple it is. You will laugh at how hard you tried. So just simply be in your moments.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
That's all life is.
So I wonder if there's a bit of a misconception that, we think enlightenment is this spectacular event or this unveiling of some very enlightening experience or a series of experiences, when in fact when you talk about it, it's quite unremarkable.
It's remarkable to the ego, but when the ego is gone, it's just normal.
Right, it's just normal. Yeah. It's status quo.
Yeah, exactly. You see, so the one who would find it remarkable is no longer there.
Yeah.
You see, initially, there's a little bit of an interchange.
Right.
See ya. This is great, yeah. But you see, if you got caught up in that ecstatic thing, you'd be back in the ego. It is ecstatic, but nothing's personal, so it doesn't have that same flair that ecstatic would have had.
So say that again. The one that would find it remarkable isn't real. Is that what you said?
Is no longer there.
Is no longer there, right?
Yeah.
So that's it's such a really interesting statement and phenomenon, really.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
that needs to happen is you just switch sides.
Right.
From me to thee.
That's even simpler. Wow.
And thee is totally different quality, because me is personal, but thee is universal. You see? Thee knows no separation, and it knows no limit. It applies to everything. You see? So it has a whole different quality than your personal point of view, your personal life.
I'm visualizing a T-shirt.
Yes?
It says, "From me to thee."
Yeah. People would misinterpret
They
it.
wouldn't know what that meant.
No. It would be nice if there was something like that everyone could get, that would really convey it. People think that then, I have to get to thee. You see, you
Right.
are thee.
Right.
So there's from me to zero. And thee takes over.
Or me is thee.
Me is thee. Well, you see there again.
But then
you
again, that's a
you
misconception.
get to have your cake and eat it too.
Right.
That's that. What is it? The people were into the co-creation, where you get to have both.
Can you just talk more about the diminishment of the mind and the ego and maybe your experiences of that?
Well, they were a long time ago, but what it is right now, you think of yourself as an accumulation of thoughts and actions and history and concepts and conditioning and all of that. You think of yourself in a very me kind of way. Okay? Everything revolves around what you think, say, and do. And you are the accumulation of all of those actions and thoughts and feelings. So you see, there's billions of people living that way. And they're thinking of themselves as the primary thing in their lives and the primary thing that they focus on. People are meditating on that, you see, and that's really the God is a personalization of your thoughts, feelings, and actions. And it's that accumulation of that. All of those things are very temporary and fleeting and changing. Now, God dwells within you as you points to an essence that is steady and consistent, never changes, and applies to everything. So you have this sense of being which is everything, and you have this sense of being which is just you. And what you're focused on 99% of the time is that place that is just you. And even as a spiritual seeker, it's your path, and it's what you're doing, and it's what you're blah, blah, blah. And you're understanding and getting and feeling and blah, 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 blah. But it's all in the me universe. So when you get the gravity of this eternal essence that is within you, when that becomes more of a focus, then the me loses its dominance and it loses its significance. I mean, imagine that you could be a tiny little dust speck on Earth, or you could be everything in the universe. And you would go, well, that's kind of small. And when you put it that way, insignificant. The entire universe is everything I could ever imagine and more. In fact, I can't even fit it into my little brain. You see? So, but it's there. The essence of everything is within you. So how is it that the mind is able to draw all of your attention and all of your energy? How is it? It's a magic trick built on illusion. So you see, it naturally diminishes the mind. That's all. So if you take this stuff to heart, what I'm talking about, it will naturally diminish the mind. It will naturally diminish your small sense of me. And what will take over is this eternal sense of being, which is beyond a me entirely. You see? And so as that happens, gradually the things that were all wrapped up in me begin to lose their draw. So the draw lessens, and you're spending more time being than involved with the personal aspects of life.
I'm assuming what has felt like, and I'm assuming if it's your experience, is that like your teacher's teachings, they diminish the intellectual nature of it diminishes. You know, it's like, it's there, like you can remember Baba or Ramesh's words, but the rigidity of them, or the, you know, like the dogma of them.
Oh yeah, yeah, but that only,
diminishes.
all of those things only apply to a seeker.
Right.
When the seeker dies, those things are, it can be passed along, right, you see. But, I realized early on with Baba, when I was actually with him for, I said, this is what I said, the Guru makes the rules, but the Guru can break the rules. You see, because they didn't apply to him. There's what people don't understand about Gurus. They get into trouble because everyone thinks that these rules now apply. Nothing applies to an enlightened being. It just doesn't. You know, so there's no more rules. Those rules were useful for getting a spiritual seeker to the place where the me can be diminished enough. But that's it. Once that's done, there's no more need to apply such rules, because who's going to do it? So it's done. Really, right now, all there is stillness. Right in this moment. That's what's actually here. Is just this sense. You can say a sense of being is here. But really what's here is just this complete stillness. Then you have a thought, oh, I wish I could feel that. I felt it a minute ago, and now it's gone. Really, that's all that's ever here. The mind is not meant to be your God. The mind does not deserve the level of attention and reverence you give it. You can give it some reverence, but not so much that you withdraw your own self in favor of your thoughts, thinking that they are who you are. They're just thoughts. You don't even know where they came from. You get a thought, and then you think about it, and then you think something else. But you don't even know where the initial thought came from. It just came from nowhere. But you say, that's you. And then you do something. Sometimes you do something and you didn't even mean to do it. You said you weren't going to do it, and then you do it anyway. And then you say, these are my actions. So now you're living in a world where you have thoughts and feelings and actions that you've personalized, they're yours. Nothing is yours and everything is yours. Everything is yours, but none of it is personal. None of it is personally yours. But everything is yours. The whole universe is within you. God dwells within you as you. But he didn't say you are God. God dwells within you as you. It's before any personalization touched it. So, everyone is very, 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 very close to this. We all came from it, we're all going to it. We all forget it for a short time. We call it a lifetime. It's just a short time. Everyone comes and goes. They're born into it, into this life. They leave. Everyone leaves. People live their lives as if that doesn't apply to them. You know, but it does. And I think it's better to live your life knowing that death is near, so you can have some perspective. Otherwise you can forget easily and think this is it. This is nothing. It's just a smoke and mirrors show. A very high-tech virtual reality. But true reality is happening right now under your feet and everywhere else in the universe. And in your heart. So, just don't forget it. If you remember it, it'll all be fine.
So it seems like infants, a baby, have what you're talking about.
Yeah, definitely.
And then it's in our humanness to reach and grab and put something in our mouth. You know, is this edible or not? You know, babies want to stick everything in their... So we're discriminating beings pretty much right out of the God dwells within, because the babies feel that and they even smell it. You know, they say babies have a certain smell and innocence. So I'm catching what you're saying is that I was born with that, and then the mind starts
Well, you see, the mind,
right away
the
discriminating.
mind wasn't very developed at that point, you see? So there's still very much that. And so what happens? The baby is still living in that oneness, okay? And in utero with the mommy, and they're one. Born, okay, there's something weird happening here. I don't know what it is. You know, the mind isn't working. But it doesn't feel good. So I start crying. Then mommy comes, puts something in my mouth, and I start feeling it again. Okay, I'm connected. I'm connected. All right. This is right. This is closer. You see? And then then all of a sudden, a sensation from the body comes. It's like, this is weird. What the fuck is this? You see? And you see, so there's this gradual transition from union, separation, you see, and all the uncomfortableness and difficulty around it. But still, you can see it in an infant. There's still a lot more time that is a time of just being, as opposed, even in crying, there's just being, as opposed to a me time. The me isn't developed enough yet. But, you know, as good parents, we teach our kids to develop that as soon as possible. You see? Because that's what makes this work. Okay? You know, otherwise the child would never eat. They have to be taught. They have to be hand-fed. And you see, in order to keep the body sustained. That's all. It's just what makes it work. And look, you know, you have this really high-tech virtual reality machine. And it develops over time. It becomes more efficient and more sophisticated, and then gradually it degrades. It becomes less efficient, less sophisticated, and then it just falls apart, just like an old car. It can't be fixed anymore.
True.
So it's just like that. If you stop thinking about yourself as this body as something really fantastic. I mean, really, how fantastic is this body? All it does is make poo and pee. That's all it does. And you can't even really claim that you made it.
Just happens.
Yeah. So it's like, why would you want to be associated with the body's thoughts and feelings? The little poo machine and all that it did.
We're degrading a little bit here.
Oh, maybe. I'm just bringing it down to basics.
Basics, real basic.
Nisargadatta used to talk about poo a lot.
Mm.
And he actually was the one who said, someone would come to the ashram, and he'd see they were just full of themselves. And he would yell at them and go, "What are you so proud of?
Mm.
What do you think you've done in your life? All you've done your whole life is make shit. And you're proud." You see?
Mm-hmm.
So he was a big one on that. There's just some of the few quotes I know.
Nothing like a trip to the outhouse, you know, make you feel better.
That's it.
I wish it was that easy. Just flush it all away.
It might be. It might be.
Yeah.
You see? They're like this swaha,
Mm-hmm.
constantly releasing it into the fire where it just goes up in smoke. And you see, when the body falls off, everything is released. Everything. All the thoughts and feelings. All of it. Personality, all of it. So it is actually quite simple. Maybe you struggle for a while, then it becomes easy. See, I can do it myself. Ramesh was staying in Seattle. It's when his son died and they had to send Sharda back. And so he was there and, he got up earlier than everyone else. And he thought, I'd like a cup of tea. But he had never made a cup of tea before. So but he'd seen it done. So he got the water and he put it in the kettle, and he figured out how to turn on the stove, and the water boiled, and when the other people got him, he goes, I just made tea for the first time. He figured it out. He'd never boiled water before. What a life. Now you see, someone might see that and say, yeah, there's the ego. There's not.
You know how when you are awake, there can be this there's always this awareness present, this awareness that's sort of aware of just everything that's happening. And that's happening in a movie like me talking to you right now. Then when you fall asleep, I mean, obviously the awareness that obviously that which we are remains, but it's like the awareness disappears. It appears to disappear because there's dreams, and the characters in the dreams are, their attention is all in the dream, it's all caught in the dream. So it's like the awareness disappears, but it couldn't, could it?
No, so what you're experiencing is not complete, because like I have dreams, all kinds of things happen in my dreams, right? But I know they're not real.
Yeah.
I'm not personally involved, even if I am doing things, right?
Right, yeah.
I still am existing in the same way that I exist in the waking dream.
Yeah.
So it's all the same.
Yeah.
Now you see, so I'll bet that this awareness you're speaking of,
Yeah.
when things get really intense in your life, it's gone too. Is it?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, because I thought, actually, when Andrea was sleeping.
So how is it goes when you're sleeping? How is that?
Well, it seems that the characters in the dream, say I have a dream of going to the moon, the character, there's not the one that watches, the character that's going to the moon. I'm not aware of that. I'm not aware of that awareness.
No, interesting. I don't know how that could be, so all I can think of is that it's not full awareness in your waking dream either. You see? In order for it to escape you when you're sleeping, then there's something incomplete in this picture. Okay?
What do you think that is?
A certain level of personal involvement with what's going on in your
Like
life.
the mind is still processing.
Well, no, there's a certain amount of identity still attached with the me that becomes more apparent when you're sleeping, because you have it pretty dialed up when you're awake, how, that sense of being is. But maybe you've in some way personalized that sense of being as well. You see that sense of awareness. If you've claimed it in any way, well then it's personalized too. The ego is a very slippery thing, and what you're seeing is kind of evidence that the ego may have slipped into this thing where you think it isn't. Okay?
Right.
And so if you are earnest about this, you'll call it and get cleaner about it, like allow for a deepening of this sense of awareness such that the me is completely removed. Because what you'll find then is when you go to sleep, all the stuff will go on, but that awareness will still be there. That sense of connection with everything, nothing could take it away. Nothing. It'd be impossible. So the fact that this is giving you a gift, it's giving you a gift to see, oh, okay, so there's something a little deeper now. You've been with enlightened beings, so you actually have a reference point for what it should feel like if it's clean. You see? What unconditional love, complete acceptance feels like when it's totally clean. Okay, so you should have within you the discrimination to fess out when it's not. Okay? And I had a process of doing this. I wrote about it in the night writings, in my earliest writings. So it's like there's still, the me is, it likes to be in everything, It's like a pet. It likes to be involved in everything. You see?
And it sneaks its way into places where you think it's not,
Yeah.
or where you can't see it.
Well, you only can't see it because you're not being vigilant. You see, you can see it, but you assumed it wasn't there. And now you're getting evidence that it must be.
Right.
Okay, so now you can look at it and you can fess it out and make it cleaner. Make it as clean as it is when you're with an enlightened being and you know that that love is unconditional, eternal, and infinite. Okay? Because whenever the me gets involved, it limits things and it makes things more finite. And so good that you noticed, because there's people who fool themselves for a long time. You see.
My guess is that, tell me what you think. My guess is that the only way to, I don't know what you call it, unlock that, whatever, wherever the me is hiding in that awareness space, is most probably surrender, like deeper and deeper, because
Yes.
my guess is I don't think that this mind is sharp enough for the thorn to take out the thorn. You know how some minds are just super sharp.
Well, now, it's okay, because love can take care of all of that for you, okay? And grace. So, but in order for that to happen, it helps for you to be aware that there's something going on here.
Yeah,
So you're not fooling yourself,
yeah,
you see? That's all. And you can trust that the universe, that God will take care of everything. And really, look, if there was something, if you could work all this out, it wouldn't be enlightenment then.
right.
It would be something you did.
The I doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you're on track. You don't have to figure it all out, all the details. I had the mind for that, but you don't have to
I
have
don't
it.
think this has the mind for it.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It actually may be easier for you because of that.
Surrender.
Yeah. So the surrender too, you're not in direct control of. But at least you know that that's what's needed. You see? And you can simply pray for it.
Yeah.
You know, but the thing about it is, remember what it was like and what it is like for you to be with an enlightened being, and that sense you have of complete, infinite acceptance and love. And then look at your situation and the awareness and see where it may not be as infinite and as unconditional as that.
Yeah.
So this is a great gift. This is the gift of a guru, is that you have the example of what it is. And it's not in what the guru says, but it's in how you feel when you're around him that teaches you what it feels like, you see.
Yeah.
So that place of awareness you were speaking of should feel identical to that space you feel when you're with an enlightened being. So, and when it's not, you can say, this is what's missing. There's something missing. And it's easy to find because, I mean, you're right here, right now. It's right with you. Right now, you can experience that. You know it's there. It's always there. It's always there. And so the me tries to get involved because the me's involved in everything. And so when you have something that's beyond the me goes, this is cool, I want this. This is nice,
Yeah.
we can have this together.
Yes,
You
yes,
see?
yes, yeah.
That's all. And it's good that you had, and were able to see from the example of your dreams where suddenly it wasn't applying,
Yeah,
you see.
yeah.
So it's easy.
I think it is like the removal of the sneaky I-ness, the sneaky royal I-ness, that
I'm going to call it diminishment,
diminishment. Yes.
so that it's not as unachievable. You see, if it's just diminished, actually, a lot of gurus would teach it's the removal, it's the ego's totally dead, it's gone, blah, blah, blah. But every guru I ever met answered to their name, so something's still there. So You see, something survives. You see, so it's just diminished. It's diminished. The me is diminished. And the gurus I knew, they were all busy. They were doing stuff all the time. It wasn't like they just sat in a corner, and meditated and let their eyes roll up. They were busy. They were talking nonsense to people. They were talking whatever. They were, enduring worship. All kinds of things. They were doing whatever it is that their guru path took them on. Ramesh would still cash his checks, pay his bills. Baba had meetings all day. He would give private darshan in the morning to people. He would, he had stuff going on all the time. He was always wandering into the kitchen. He was always going in odd places around the ashram, just, keep everyone on their toes. He was involved in, he spent time talking to the manager every day. It's like, there was a lot of stuff going on. There were a lot of people. There were probably 200 people on staff at tops, and there were thousands of people coming. Maybe it was a little less on staff, but still, there was a lot going on. He had the money, so if someone had that devotion within them, he could find a way to make it possible for them to stay. So, they started an ashram magazine. They had an ashram bookstore. And they had an ashram construction crew. And they had an ashram this and that. All kinds of things for people to do. All the meals. There was a kitchen, there was dishwashing, there were cooking and chopping, and there was cleaning, and there was security. And endless housing, for all the people to have rooms and, register and all of this stuff. There was a lot to do because he made it bigger and bigger, and so the bigger it got, the more people. The cool thing about the ashram, that was like my family. And even if I left the ashram for some time, I knew I could come back any time. And it was like no time had passed. I was just welcomed in. Because the devotion was there. And Baba made sure that it was responded to appropriately. That everyone was given a chance, you see. And he matched everyone's commitment on that level. I couldn't believe that I got on staff. It was just amazing. A $50 a month stipend, enough for toothpaste, and soap. That's it. But I was able to be there indefinitely. I could be there years and years and years. It didn't matter. And then when Gurumayi went to India, I was sent to India. They got me a passport, they got me a visa, it's like, I went to Manhattan, all this stuff, they had organization there, ashram there, and they knew how that's what they did. Just got people visas and passports so that they could, go on whenever the Guru wanted them over there. So that was it. You see, so everything gets matched. So you see, your level of sincerity will be matched just universally. So when you catch stuff like this, and when you make the move beyond it, the universe will support you in that. It'll match you. That's cool.
I think when you're not suffering, it's very easy to get complacent or lazy, or for the ego to hide.
Okay, so maybe you need to suffer.
Well, yeah, I thought of that. It's like, Nisargadatta said, I don't like the idea of Nisargadatta saying suffering wakes you up and pleasure puts you to sleep, but it appears to be true.
No, it's true. It's true. Look, you know, when things are going really good, there's no pressure on you to do the really hard stuff.
Right, yeah.
You see, when things are going really bad, you're desperate enough to do things you never would have considered before. You see, so in that way, it's a gift. It's yeah. So I also went through a lot emotionally, and it's really was what triggered everything, because, you know, really it takes a lot of force to break the ego, and until the ego's cracked, the light won't get in, you see. So it has to happen one way or another, and so one way is to have events happen in your life that cause you a lot of suffering.
Or even like subtle suffering. I mean, I can still see where bubbles still come up from the bottom of the pond, and then it's like, wow, look at this.
Mm-hmm.
Where did this come from? And then, you know, somehow the grace is shining the light of awareness on it, and something really huge shifts. So I guess consciousness just kind of organically just keeps bringing up the bubbles that are on the bottom, and they they bubble up, and that's luck. That's really good luck, isn't it? To keep having that until it runs out.
Yeah.
There's bubbles.
Right now you're getting it easy, okay? As long as your sincerity is such that you can get it the easy way, you'll be fine. Otherwise, if you're sincere about your path, God will give you another way, which may not be as much fun,
Right.
but it'll do the trick. You see, that's all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
In the bottom line, it's kind of like, how deep is your desire to have a love affair with God
Yeah,
versus anything else, really?
exactly, yeah, because it actually excludes everything personal for everything.
Yeah.
But when everything that you know is personal, you see it the other way around. When everything that you know is personal, you see letting go of personal as everything. But in fact, letting go of personal is nothing, especially when you get everything in return. So, it's all right. It's all right. It's good. It's good. I think it's a good thing. And now you can target it. And all that has to happen is that you follow through with your sincerity about this, you know, and prove that this is what it is for you. Through devoting all of your attention and love and energy to your spiritual self.
Thank you.
Ah.
That was really helpful.
Oh, good. glad you brought it up. Yeah. Anything else? Okay. then. No sense in stalling the potluck.